Welcome to today's episode where I am interviewing the fabulous Nigel Jones, and we talk about his book, Walking Back to Happiness. But more than that, this conversation is laced with passion, warmth, curiosity, because Nigel just didn't become alcohol free. He actually changed his identity. And the tools that he shares in this episode are really accessible and important. And so I want to invite you to listen in as Nigel talks about his experience as a hypnotherapist, how to use language, and most importantly, how to see yourself as someone who is already on top of the mountain. So enjoy this episode. I certainly did. Can't wait to hear your feedback. And here is my conversation with the fabulous Nigel Jones. Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Teri Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion, learn the truth behind the alcohol myths, and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Well, hey, everyone, it's Teri back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast, and I am excited and delighted to introduce to you my new friend, Nigel Jones. And you're going to hear very quickly that he is British, and he is an author, he is a hypnotherapist, he is an alcohol-free coach. And we were talking, Nigel, that you and I together are celebrating here in 2025 a combined total of 15 years of alcohol.
Yeah, that's right. 15 years. Wow.
Yes. So 10 for me and 5 for you. So you're coming right behind me, my friend. And it's so exciting to look back and also to look forward to what is ahead as we experience this time in our life. So will you tell my listeners a little bit about your background and why 5 years ago you made this dramatic change that has changed so much?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'd been drinking probably for the best part of 35 years. So starting in high school, late high school, sort of age 17-ish, maybe a little bit younger. And having gone to university, just sort of carried on boozing basically. No, I wouldn't say to what I would call a high level of drinking, but it was probably to someone who doesn't drink a lot. And over the years, it built up and just became a nasty habit, I guess. Towards the end, I was drinking about a bottle of wine a day. And once you're into your 50s, that's just not doable because it's not going anywhere. And so I sort of fell into that trap just simply through the normalization and the acceptability of alcohol because it's just all around us, and it was just a done thing to do back in the 1980s, and I guess it's getting less so now with the younger generation. But it was a rite of passage, really. I mean, if you drank, you were an adult, you were established. It's sort of it was the thing to do. So yeah, I ended up drinking for the best part of 35 years, and one day, which was actually December the 8th in 2020, which is in a few days' time, so I'll be celebrating 5 years sober. I just said, all right, I'm done. I've had enough. And that was the day I did it. And I've never looked back, absolutely never looked back. And I'll never drink again.
I love that story because it's so similar to my story. I had been thinking about not drinking for a long time, but I hadn't really done anything formal. I was convinced I would be miserable, have no friends, life would be boring, and I didn't really want to sign up for that.
Yeah.
But one day I did decide, look, I'm just going to, instead of trying to moderate or set a lot of rules around drinking, I'm just going to not drink again. And that was amazing because it doesn't certainly happen that way for everyone. But for me, having the mental space was so powerful to
Yeah.
allow myself to say, oh, I no longer have to be in this constant negotiation, constant battle, make
Yeah.
a lot of rules around alcohol. And much like you, I never looked back.
No, that's right. And I think I wrote a book in the first 6 months. After 6 months into the journey, I decided that I was going to write this all down because I discovered the secret of how to do this. Because, the reality was I tried thousands of times over 35 years to stop drinking. And they were normally lots of day ones where I got over a day. I was in day two and thought, actually, I feel really good. I might have a drink. And so that just kept on a cycle going round and round and round like some sort of hamster wheel. And I think the longest I went in the 35 years without a drink was 6 days. And I'm not proud of that, but it's like crazy when you look back on it. And what changed for me was literally, or the thing that made it different was, and is really the secret to alcohol free living, is I changed my identity. And that's all I did. And you can change your identity like that in a click of a finger. And so on December the 8th, I woke up and I said, right, what I'm going to do this time, which is different, is I'm actually a non drinker trying to be a non drinker. I'm not a drinker trying to be a non-drinker, because that's a big, big difference. It's like I always like bringing this metaphor of like the mountain. In the old days, the reason why I failed was because I was looking up at this huge mountain. It was like the size of Everest, and on the top of it was a flag saying "alcohol freedom." And I was at the bottom looking up, thinking, "Oh, I'm day one. I've got to get there." And I just created the problem for myself. I just created this huge limiting belief that I had to get to this place called alcohol free living, when actually I didn't realize, or I hadn't realized in the past, that it was already there. The minute you change your mind and you change your mindset and your identity, you are alcohol free living. And so, therefore, day one this time was on top of the mountain. So I didn't have to climb up, I just put myself there. And I decided that I would acquire immediately the values and the beliefs of someone who was a non drinker. And that was the bit that was sort of, the battle. It was fighting that old me and just getting the new me to actually take over. But literally, that was the secret, and that's how you do it quickly. Well, that's how I did it quickly, anyway.
Oh my goodness, I'm visualizing that. Such a great metaphor or visualization of being on top of the mountain instead of
Yeah,
trying
on
to
day one,
get there.
day one, on second one, and this is the great thing. You go into it excited. It's like, wow, I'm at the start of this road, which is the rest of my life, and I am alcohol free. And wow, I'm reborn again. And it's like, what are the values of someone who doesn't drink? Well, they get up early and they go for a walk. They eat healthy food. So this is what I'm going to do. And I just told myself that. I looked in a mirror and told myself, you're going for a walk every morning. You're healthy. You are going to do this. You are doing it. And, if you say it enough, it becomes true, because what you think becomes your reality.
Yes, yes. And it's so interesting because when I did this 10 years ago, I did not have that mindset, but I think I acquired it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and that was sometimes I tell people, there was no formal programs around sober curious or alcohol freedom. There was literally AA and the highway. And I
Yes.
chose my own highway. I went in my own path. And it wasn't any knock against AA, but I frankly was afraid of creating that hypervigilance.
Yeah.
I would have to continue thinking about drinking for the rest of my life. And what I wanted to do was not think about
Yeah.
drinking anymore. And so I quickly stumbled upon, is the way I say it, some ideas that worked very well. And
Yeah.
one of the things I said very quickly, Nigel, was I used to drink.
Yeah. That's good.
And that was such a huge identity shift for me. And
Yeah.
I tell people now, I said, it is like saying I used to be 15.
Yeah.
Like, I can remember being 15, and there were some good things about 15, but I
Yeah.
don't wanna go back to being 15. I've evolved, and I don't have to hate being 15, although it was a challenging time for sure. Teenage years are as they are, but I don't need to hang in that spot of longing
Yes.
past.
Yeah. 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 So I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, because that's exactly it. It's all about changing your identity at the language level, because the language we use on ourselves is so powerful. I mean, even the term "I'm quitting drinking" is not the terminology you should use, because the word "quit" it infers that you're giving something up. Or it's like literally, it's got to be stop drinking. I'm stopping drinking, and that's the powerful thing about it. So there was this great sort of Buddhist text that I read in the early days, which was that we live our lives at the tip of intention. And when you really unpack that, what it means is so powerful to an alcohol-free journey, because it means whatever you do, any act that you do, you intend to do it. So if I intend to pick up a glass of wine, I'll pick the glass up. And if I do that enough, it'll become a habit. And if I carry that habit on, it'll become my character. And if that carries on, it'll become my destiny. So right back to the root here is the intention to do something. So if I intended to go for a run and that became my habit, that running would become my destiny, and I would have a very, very different future. So if we then come back to intention and we say to ourselves, well, what is intention made up of? It's made up of values and beliefs and thoughts. And literally, this is where identity lies, because our main beliefs form our identity. So if you can change the belief, you can change your destiny. And it's as simple as that. It's really, and this is the power of NLP and hypnotherapy, because you can actually go into the DNA of what thoughts are and change them. And when you change the thoughts, you change your beliefs, and then you change your story, and then you change your life.
Yes. Yes, I love that so much. And I've always been fascinated by NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and
Yes.
the way that our brain really does attach. I tell people all the time, words matter.
Yeah.
When I grew up, people would say, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. And we have it wrong. And we often, the words that are the most painful is those stories that we're telling ourselves, that background noise, those automatic negative thoughts, the negative chatter. And that is rooted exactly what you said in
Yeah.
intention. And I talk all the time about intention, because to me, goal setting is very directive, and it can be very black or white. I achieved this, I didn't achieve that. But when we have intention, we can set an
Mm.
intention to have the experience around the goal. And that
Yeah.
feels very different. And so it really is powerful what you're saying, that we have we have all the power.
Yeah, and what's the best way to look at this, or a really easy way to look at this, is if you went to the market, or you went online and you wanted to buy a new computer, like a Mac or a PC, you would 100% expect it to come with some form of manual or instruction manual. I mean, how do I turn it on? What happens if it goes wrong with troubleshooting? You just need it. It's expected. Now, our brains are still the most powerful supercomputer there is, but they don't come with any manual at all. There's nothing uh, until NLP was discovered or invented. And really, that's what NLP is. It's the instruction manual of your mind. And it's so powerful when you really get down to the inside the DNA of thoughts, how you can change them. Because really, any thought or any memory that you have in your head, and that could be a fear, it could be like an image of a tree, or a guitar or whatever, is just a thought, because you're only thinking it and it's stored in your mind. So the thought of I like alcohol, or I like drinking, or alcohol relaxes me, are thoughts. And thoughts are made up of, they're only comprised of visuals, sounds, and feelings, because that thought can only get into your head through your senses. There is no other way in. So every thought, whether it be a spider, a cup of tea, a curtain, a house, is made up of a visual, a sound, and a feeling. And so that they're the ingredients really of thoughts. So a good way to look at this is look at yourself as the chef. And all your thoughts are literally, you put it all together. You've taken the ingredients and you've made the recipes. You've made the recipe, I drink, right? So that's a recipe, right? So if you were making chocolate cake, you'd have chocolate, eggs, sugar, flour, whatever. If I took the chocolate away, you wouldn't be able to make chocolate cake anymore. And if I took the flour away, you wouldn't even be able to make cake. So if we go inside the subconscious mind and we say, well, what is making up your thought process and beliefs around alcohol, and just play with the actual ingredients a little bit, the whole recipe changes. And you can change that recipe like that. just like you could take the chocolate off the table, you can completely change the way you think about stuff. And that's the power of hypnotherapy and NLP used together in habit change.
Yes, and this is why I think you and I were talking about how, I mean, I still live in the same house. I still have the same husband. We've been married for 43 years, but everything in my life has changed
Yeah,
because my thoughts have changed.
yeah, yeah,
And that's amazing. And that to me, Nigel, is the difference of being not drinking, the behavior of not drinking and
yeah.
experience of living alcohol free.
Yeah, and you know, all you're doing there is there's a hierarchy of needs here. And if you change any change you make at the top, like in your purpose or your identity, is easy to actually stop doing behavioral things. So if you change your identity, it's easy not to go to the bar. But if it's not easy not to go to the bar if you haven't changed your identity, because that's the. But once the identity changes, everything changes. So who you are, your values, your beliefs, your way you hang out, your environment, your behavior, the lot, because
Yeah.
it's right on the top.
Yeah. So one of the things you did early on was you started walking. So
Yeah.
tell us about that because that's the basis of your first book. You now have told me you keep writing books, Nigel. I'm quite impressed. But your first book, Walking Back to Happiness, I want to hear more about how that came about.
Yeah, so I wrote "Walking Back to Happiness" in the first. It's between about month 5 and month 10 of the first year of going alcohol free. In fact, it follows my journey through the first 365 days. It's a bit like a hero's journey, really. So if you're the reader, you become the hero in it. So you leave the old world of drinking. You cross the bridge. You fight all your dragons. You hit the challenges and the obstacles, and you come back and you actually tell everyone about how great this life is. So it's that kind of story, but it's split into day one, week one, month one, the first few months, and really for me, when I woke up on that second morning of not drinking, um, I was literally sort of wide awake at like 5 a.m. And because I was on top of the mountain, I'd literally said to myself, well, what does a healthy non-drinker do? And well, they go for a run or they go for a walk. And I decided to go walking simply because I was in my 50s and I didn't want to sort of put myself in hospital. So so I went walking and I set myself a target of 15,000 steps a day, which is quite big for me then. And I literally did that before 9 o'clock in the morning. Because I went back into work, into my business, and so I was doing 9 kilometers by 9 a.m. and that became my almost like the scaffolding that I put around myself to move myself forward into my new identity. And really, I walked every day for the first 2 years, 730 days. I did 9 kilometers before 9 a.m. every day. I saw over 500, 600 sunrises. It was immense. It was so spiritual, and I was listening to probably 300 books, just all great authors and great texts from Stoicism to Buddhism to Hinduism, and just learning about well-being over the centuries. And it was just phenomenal. And then I was so walking back to happiness really just summarizes this huge identity change. And so it is a book about not drinking, but at the same time you can use it changing anything. So people buy it to stop smoking or just to check or to lose weight, or it's all about who am I? What's my purpose in life? Where am I going? And a large part of it is um, learned from the texts of Japan. They have something out there called ikigai, which is your purpose and who you are, and long life comes from doing something that you really enjoy. And so walking was literally, I was writing books and walking down the country lanes of the UK, and I was getting back into the office, and after I dictated the chapter, I was writing it in my office. So yeah, it was just a great experience, and I put that really at the center of how I changed as well, both mentally, physically, and I guess spiritually as well. Simply just being one with nature was immense. It was, and I still do that today. I don't walk the full 9K every morning now, but I do at least 5 or 6.
Wow. Wow. So we have a mutual friend, Maggie, and she says he must not have young children. She's like, how would I get in 15 kilometers or 15,000 steps before 9
Yeah.
a.m. with three young children?
So when I started, my youngest was 18. Yeah. So they'd grown up. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I get excited about is this idea of the hero's journey, because I've shared that framework as well and I've presented and spoken on your hero's journey and how you get to evolve. And that is the human experience. And I feel so blessed, lucky,
Yeah.
excited about recognizing that path as
Yeah.
opposed to settling for this is life, I have no control. There's a lot of blame that can happen and a lot of guilt that we can carry into this transformation. And I think that that is a powerful part of the change that we need to do with our identity. Am I someone who lives in the past? Am I someone who feels powerless? Am I someone who blames circumstances? And that, for me, you started walking. I started and wrote a book. I went to nutrition school about 3 months after I stopped drinking because I was like, I've got this huge brain, all this energy. What am I going to do? I'm no longer wasting time. I feel excited about learning. I want to do something different. I want to follow a passion and see. And that was really key for me because I did that nutrition certification. And then I was a health coach for a while, still working at the public schools. And then I learned about Annie Grace, and I was in that first class of alcohol-free coaches, and that felt like that next place in my hero's journey. It's like, okay, here I am, now I'm at the top again. I get to go back through this
Yeah.
journey of understanding change and facing the hard parts of being an entrepreneur and putting myself out there in the world, taking risks and growing from those places. Slaying
Yeah.
dragons, if you will.
Yeah. Completely. Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it might be walking, it might be nutrition school, it might be coaching, but what you're really talking about here, Nigel, is that holistic experience of
Yes.
becoming a new person. And it doesn't just happen with our thoughts, and it doesn't just happen with our actions, and it doesn't just happen um, through thinking positive thoughts, but it is this combination of the
Yeah.
spiritual change, the identity change, the feedback we get from the actions that we take. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all so beautifully connected.
Yeah, and learning the tools of hypnotherapy and NLP are really powerful as well. So when I was writing the book, I wasn't qualified in NLP or hypnotherapy at that time, but I was reading all this stuff and I was taking it in. And one of the first things I read, or what in the early days, was this thing called the RAS, or the RAS, or it actually stands for the rhetorical activating system, and it's such a powerful thing because it operates behind the scenes. It keeps us, the fact that we're talking now, our hearts are beating, we're breathing in, we're breathing out. The RAS is actually controlling all that. But wouldn't it be great if you could control the RAS? And you can if you know how to do it. And I'll give you a good example is if you're, let's say, with a friend and you can't remember the name of an actor or an actress in a movie, you'll be like racking your brains to find out the name and you just can't get it. And then you'll give up. And then about 3 days later, you're walking down the road and bang, it just comes out. You go, Tom Cruise or whatever it is. And the reason why that's happened is because you've asked your subconscious mind 3 days ago, what was the name of that actress or actor? And behind the scenes, it's been working to find out that answer. And then that's why when you're standing in the supermarket, wherever it is, you get the answer and you didn't even expect it. Now, that is actually the thinker prover element within the brain. And it's a classic part of our human brains. So if you ask yourself the right questions that would lead to the goals you wanted to achieve, then wow, you could say to yourself, um, I'm in like month 2 of outgoing alcohol free. What can I do to make this a lot easier on myself? And then and then and then maybe do it just before you go to bed with a pen and paper next to your bed, because when your brain slows down, it'll work a lot quicker on that question. And so you can do it at any time. Just keep asking yourself questions that you want the answers to. And in the background, when you're not expecting it, you'll get the answer. And it always works. But what I would say as a tip is have that pen and paper handy and make sure you write it down or record it immediately, because you will immediately, within seconds, forget it. And then you can't remember it again. I don't know if this ever happened to you. You wake up with this great idea, and then, oh, what was it? I've forgotten it. But this is how you can use these. These are like hypnotherapy tools and or subconscious mind tools, and how you can actually really make the mind work for you once you know what to do, basically.
Maybe I'm a secret NLP therapist, Nigel, because I do teach people about asking a better question.
Yeah,
And I think about, I tell people like your brain is like Google, and Google's like
yeah,
your brain, right? And so if you type into Google, why can't I stop drinking? What's
yeah,
going to come up? All the reasons why you can't stop drinking. But if you type into Google or ask your very powerful brain to focus on how can I stop drinking, it's going to
yeah.
give you a very different answer.
Yeah, completely. And you have to remember as well that absolutely everything that happens to you is stored somewhere in your mind. And so think of your mind as like a blank piece of paper, and it's continually being written on just by looking at through your eyes, through your ears, and through your senses. And so what one of the things you can do within hypnotherapy, and you can do this on yourself, and actually it's a really important point. The only form of hypnosis is self hypnosis. The hypnotherapist can help guide you into a hypnotherapy, into a hypnosis, but he's not hypnotizing you. You are self hypnotizing. You are the one who's relaxing and going. And what we do in hypnotherapy is we take the client, it's called an effect bridge. You take them over a bridge into their subconscious mind, and you say, well, you could go to this library, and you ask them to imagine they're in the library. And in that library, let's say they're 55 years old. You say to them, can you see all those beautifully leather bound books ranging from 0 to 55? And I'd like you to walk up there and sit in front of them. Now, which will you pick a book out? Which one jumps out to you? They might pick out 45, and you open it and let's go through it. Or you might slice and dice it another way. You might say, in the other section of this library are your happy memories. Let's go and get that book and put it on the table. And you can actually get into the root causes of lots of past traumas in your early life through this way, and you can actually explore them. And you can bring in your adult self to actually comfort that child. So a 55-year-old person can come and sit next to themselves as a 6-year-old and have a conversation. Because that 6-year-old, when they learnt that memory, was a very young person. And they took that memory in with the mind of a child. And now it's time for it to be, told the right way. And then you bring that back into you and you come back to the now. And so you can change memories very simply. And it's a beautiful experience as well. And it's a really great thing which you can learn to do on yourself.
Ooh, I haven't heard that idea before, so thank you for that. That all hypnosis is self hypnosis, but it does make sense because one of the gifts that I received early, and it was from one of the senior coaches that was associated with This Naked Mind, and I learned from her. She said this powerful line to me, Nigel. She said, "You can't change the past, but you can change the stories and the meaning that you're creating."
Yes.
And that was like a light bulb, watershed moment
Yeah.
for me.
That's beautiful. That's so true as well. It's really, really powerful. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because as adults, everybody carries around some form of memory or trauma from their childhood, and it could be as something as simple as just a telling off from your mum where she raised her voice. It doesn't have to be a nasty thing. It doesn't have to be an accident or something really bad happened to you. It can just be as simple as that, and that could be carried around, meaning that you act in a certain way in all your adult life because you haven't like addressed it. And I see lots of clients who, with tiny, tiny traumas which are act out today, and you can just change them in a second.
Ooh, that is powerful stuff. Magic. It's like magic. That's why we see hypnotherapists as like magicians. Yes.
Well, the first book of NLP by Bandler was called Magic. I mean, this is the magic. I can't exactly what it's supposed to call it, the magic of the mind or something like that. But yeah, because I think when he was finding all this out, he was like, wow, this is unbelievable. This is how you can control your mind. And I always say that, with the clients, I always say, look, I try to explain NLP to them on very, very simple terms. Like there is it feels like magic, but it's not. We're just looking like how your mind works. And I always say that you're the puppeteer of your own life. You pull the strings, and if you want to dance over there on that stage, then let's go over there. And if you want to come over on this one, let's go over there. And so you write the rules. You write your future by thinking and doing it.
Yeah. And that the doing is such an important part because I think where people when I work with so many people that are afraid to take action, they're
Yeah,
set in motion. They're planning what they're going to do or they're thinking about the consequences of what they might do. And I always have to remind people all of that is in the future. What we have to do is come here in the present moment and actually take action and get feedback.
yeah. Look, this is I've done quite a bit of training with Tony Robbins, and to be perfectly blunt, that is just so spot on. I mean, you can have all the knowledge in the world if you do nothing about it, it's just worthless. And I think it's all about massive action. And there's this lovely line which is, um, "Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons," and it's so true that if you don't get the discipline to do it, pick the phone up, make the first call, send the first email, book yourself on the course, make that phone call, then it's not going to happen. You've got to do it. And that is literally, again, part of the secret to alcohol-free living is, yeah, you can have all the thoughts, but get up and do it. And you'll be surprised that once that first domino falls over, it'll knock another one and another one and another one, and the world will become your oyster and you can do whatever you want.
Yes, yes. That makes me so excited because it's true. When we try to tell people from the other side, because I just can remember, and partly because I work with people who are in their day 1 through 90, every day I work with clients. And so I have a lot of hours of listening to people and hearing those limiting beliefs and
Yeah,
recognizing the places where they're allowing worry. And, the thing about worry that I've learned, it's very seductive. It feels
yeah,
like action or
yeah,
planning for all the bad things to happen. Therefore, I'll be prepared.
yeah,
That is so seductive. And anytime we're caught in that worry, we're only in motion. And so we have to remind ourselves, like, oh, I can only take action here. So I got
yeah.
out of the future.
So what I say on this is, like, worry or anxiety. Anxiety is a fear of something that's not yet happened. That's the definition. So just look at it that way. It's a fear of something that's not yet happened. So how do you break that equation? Well, you make it happen. And once it's happened, you can't be scared of it anymore because anxiety is a fear of something that's not yet happened. So in NLP, you can take someone to the future. You can take them to that presentation they're fearing about making. You can take them to that product launch they're involved in, or you could take them to that day 30 of alcohol freedom, and you get them to visualize what they look like there, who they're with, what are they saying, what do they look like, what are they wearing, and get them to go into that body of the person who's 60, 90, 120 days alcohol free and live it. What do you feel like? What does it taste like? What's happening there? Who are you with? And that becomes a memory because, as we said earlier on in the conversation, every thought is just a visual, an audio, and a feeling. So if you can create what it's like, visualization, manifestation of what's happening out there, then all of a sudden you've been there, you've done it, and you can't be scared of something that's already happened. And therefore the anxiety goes. If you're looking in the mirror every morning and you're looking at that 120-day person on day one, and you do that every day, it'll soon become a doddle.
Wow. Yeah. And this is why we say things in our culture like, don't believe everything you think, or we talk about manifestation, but we don't break down like you're doing here, Nigel. So we actually understand that this is the way our brain is wired.
Yeah.
And, I learned from the training I did with Annie Grace, both in This Naked Mind and through, she has a course on affective liminal psychology, but really thinking about how our brain is a prediction making machine and a meaning making
Yes.
machine. And we make prediction errors all the time.
Yeah.
And so when we understand exactly what you're talking about, is that we can use our senses to create our reality. And thoughts are things. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Look,
there we
the
have it.
great thing about this is very simply it's proven that there are something like the brain is trying to deal with over 120 million bits of information every second, but your brain can only remember or deal with about 120. There's 120 versus 12 million or something. I think it's 12 million bits of information are coming in, but it can only manage 120. So it's like 0.001%. And what happens is it generalizes, it deletes, and it distorts. And that's the basis of like the N part of NLP, which is the map is not the territory. So when you actually look at something in the world, like let's say it's a bottle of wine. So if we put a bottle of wine in the middle of us and I was a drinker and you're not, my map would say, that looks really tasty. I really fancy a glass of that. And your map would say, oh God, I don't drink wine. It's disgusting. It gives me hangovers. The wine's not changed. It's still the same bottle of wine. The only thing that's different is your map says it's great, it's horrible, and mine says it's great. So what do? We change the map. And that's literally how you change your identity as well. It's all in that map. So we're coming right back to the basis of this. We know what the ingredients are. We know they're in the map. Once the client or the person who's stopping drinking understands this, it's so much easier to do because you think, yeah, I've got to just change my map. I'm looking at it wrong. Someone's scared of a spider, and someone's not. The spider's still the same. It hasn't changed. It's the same spider, but why am I scared of it and you're not? It's because you've got a different map of the spider. You've got a code that might say grey and sort of brown and coming towards me and loud and screechy, and my map might be, oh, it's just a little bit of fluff. And therefore, if you can change that grey and brown coming towards me to a little bit of fluff, they don't have the problem with the spider anymore. And that's really how you deal with phobias. You change the ingredients. And that's all you need to do with alcohol as well. It's the same thing, but it just has a load of like rubbish around it, which we're like seeing every day through our TVs and our computers and our phones. But you just got to break through it and just understand that it's only ingredients and you're the chef. I've lost you there.
Sorry, I had background noise. One of the most powerful things, Nigel, that I learned early on is that alcohol is only toxic when we ingest it. So it's like, look at that. It's an innocuous substance until I drink it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're saying is so alcohol is neutral. It's neither here nor there. It's just there in a bottle. It has no impact
Yeah.
until I drink it. And that's where we get all the change that's possible from that.
Yeah, and then that comes back to the Buddhist thing of the intention. If you have the intention to drink it, then that's when it starts. So it's all about values and beliefs and thoughts. Because at the end of the day, it's just a bottle of booze. When you were born, you had no memories. You had no beliefs. And beliefs, let's define them. They are assumptions that you hold to be true. That's all a belief is. So it's not true. It's just an assumption that you hold to be true. So therefore, every belief is learned, and because of that, it can be unlearned. And that's the power of all this. You can just wipe it clean, and start again. Just like if you had a mobile phone with an app on it that you didn't like, what would you do?
Delete.
Right? And that's exactly the same with alcohol, cigarettes, vaping, anything. You just go bang, and it's gone. If you believe it's gone.
Yeah, it blows your mind, but in such a good way because we as a society and culture, we have this like common think. We believe what other people believe, and we adapt beliefs from other people, and we can get stuck in those places, and we get a very myopic view of the world. We're looking at
Yeah.
the world always through our own experiences,
Our
thoughts,
own map.
beliefs.
Yes.
Yeah, your own map. And even just that zooming out or that perspective shift. And this is why coaching is so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because we help people see a different map.
Brilliant. That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. You've got it.
I'm so excited. It's so fun.
But you know what? Having these tools, it just makes you. It gives you the extra 4 or 5 or even 10% more than someone who doesn't have them. And so therefore you have strength. It builds up self-esteem. It gives you power that you know that you are the master of your own destiny. I mean, wow, this is something we all should have the access to. I think NLP should be taught in school from age 6.
Yeah.
It's like basic, really, the instruction manual of your mind. And no one tells you all this. You go through your whole life like thinking, oh God, wouldn't it have been great when I was younger to learn? Oh, I'd ask myself the right questions and I'll get the answers. What? How long would that take to teach someone? It's like simple, but it's so. A lot of what I've been or I will be doing is literally sort of promoting NLP into schools. That's one of
That's
my next
so
plans.
exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Good for you. Good for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're on top of the mountain,
Oh yeah. Never left her.
walking forward. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
the mountain goes down a bit and it goes up a bit, but I'm on the plateau. I'm up there.
well, and what's so cool about being on top of the mountain is we have that beautiful vista of seeing the other mountains we want to explore.
Yes, yes, yeah, that's it. And it completely, yeah, and it's an endless journey up there, and above you you've got the skies as well. There's no reason why you can't, believe you're an eagle and go for a flight.
There you go. There you go. Well, people are doing it. They just put on a little adaptive suits and they do it. They fly.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, gosh, this has been such a rich conversation. I get all fired up because this is the stuff I love to talk about, but it's also so valuable because for people to understand who feel stuck in that cycle of, like you said, 6 days and then drink again and then drink for a
Yeah.
long time and then take another couple days off and then drink again. We're making alcohol this mountain, like you said. I think that is one of the most beautiful ways to think about I'm at the bottom and I've got to climb this huge mountain. And the reality is we don't.
No, you're there. The minute you say I'm not drinking anymore, you're on top of the mountain. The minute you start making it hard for yourself, is you're walking back down it.
Yeah,
R-
and people get stuck all the time saying, "Well, don't save forever," and I'm like, "Why not?" Like
Yeah,
that changed everything for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is an old saying, but you've only got today, and literally the days get easier. And literally, by the time you get to, I mean, for me, I think I broke the back of it completely in about sort of 30 to 40 days, when the sound of the old voice went away. So
Mhm.
I always say I said to myself for years, and I say with my clients as well, is imagine there are two wolves in your head, and the old wolf is the old you, and the new wolf is the new you, is the non-drinking you. Now that old wolf is going to be barking sometimes. He's going to be like, go on, you deserve one. It's been a tough day. One won't hurt. All the old regular rubbish. And then the new one is going to be sort of talking about, no, let's go for a walk tomorrow. You've done 35 days. You're doing really, really well. And they're having a little bit of a fight between them, in your head. And the wolf that wins is the one that you feed. And it's as simple as that. So don't feed, the longer you don't feed one of them, it's just going to die of starvation and go away. And the other one's going to get bigger because you're feeding that. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll probably end up eating the other one. So that's a really, really, I always thought that was a great metaphor, because and the other thing to do is only take advice from the new wolf. because you know he's going to give you or she's going to give you the best advice. As soon as you start taking advice from the old wolf, you're back to square one because that's the old you. Never take advice from them. Always take advice from the new wolf, and that really helps with people with dealing with cravings because if you know that wolf's coming along, make sure you don't feed him.
Or give it something to drink in this case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Nigel, tell people where they can find you and tell us a little bit more about your book. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, so my book is called Walking Back to Happiness, The Secret to Alcohol-Free Living and Wellbeing. And it's on Amazon and it's available on Audible as well. So you can get it on Amazon in an audiobook, which I recorded myself in the days before AI. So it is actually my voice, which took about sort of 20 hours to do. So that's Walking Back to Happiness. And then my website is called 9km by 9am. And you can put that into anything, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the lot, and I'll come up. And you can get my newsletters through there, and I do like daily videos and stuff. But yeah, 9km by 9am.
That's beautiful. I love it. So clever and so powerful. And I love your energy. So if you guys want to connect with Nigel, get a little bit of this powerful energy and change your mind by changing your identity and then change your drinking. It's pretty powerful stuff. So once again, so great to connect with you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, God, it's been great. Really, really cool, Teri. Cheers.
I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.